morning, wheeling this chair across there, go in the elevator. Everybody's looking.
Like,
Hey, stealing chairs.
Other senators would come and ask, God, where'd you get that chair? I go, the closet down on the
closet downstairs. Nobody else is using them. Why not?
Call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise. I have asked Supervisor Gould to lead us in invocation and Supervisor Johnson to lead us in the pledge.
You please join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for this great nation that you've given us, Lord. Lord, you've given us authority over Mojave County. We ask that you help us to make wise decisions that reflect the interests of our constituents. Watch over our employees today as they go through their day, Lord, and bring them home safely to the loving arms of their family. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held on October 21st at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve waiving the reading in full of items presented for discussion, adoption, or approval at this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Official business to come before the board. Discussion of pending or contemplated litigation, claims and demands. Mr. Esplin.
Nothing to report to the board, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any committee and/or legislative reports? Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Angus. Yes, I do have a report this morning that I'll be submitting to the clerk. It is the actions that Mojave County is taking to protect Mojave County Colorado river water, the 164,000 acres that were designated to the river communities. After I go through and add a few other items to the report, I'll make sure that that is available to the entire board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Gould.
None today, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Bishop.
Have nothing, Madam Chair.
And I have nothing either. We'll move on. County Administrator.
I have no report today, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Approval of the August 19th, is that the one? Wait, I didn't have that. September 3rd Board of Supervisors meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Going to now open up the call to public. Those wishing to address the board at the call to the public regarding matters not on the board agenda must fill out and submit to the clerk a call to the public request to speak form located in the back of the room prior to the meeting. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01, a public body may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, to allow individuals to address the public body on any issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticisms made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of this public body shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. I do have several people signed up. Gail Lapointe.
Good morning. My name's Gail Lapointe. I'm at 4001 East Ryan, and I've been watching the board's goings on, and I was a little concerned about the communication director position that you were looking to open up. I didn't really know what that meant, so I had to Google it. And to me, it looks like, well, what Google said was it's a control of control of the flow of information between an organization and the public. So that means, to me, it looks like the board's looking to put a buffer between me and you. I agree with Mr. Johnson. I don't know how you can sell that to the constituents. I think this group looks pretty harmless. I know there's sometimes tempers get crazy and that kind of thing, but I'm thinking this money could be better used in controlling our code enforcements, maybe another code enforcement person so that we can actually enforce the codes, and or maybe some software so they don't have to drive 100 miles to check out a complaint. I know Mojave's a large county. I understand that. So we have to make the best use of what's available as far as electronic stuff nowadays. I'm not a computer person, but I would be in favor of that. Our neighborhoods are horrible. Not just my neighborhood, which it is. I'm still trying to clean up my street. And after cleaning up dirty toilet tissue, I'm a little concerned about the hepatitis A situation. So these are the kind of things where I think that money would be better spent. There's good groups going on. There's the Cactus Cleaners, which Golden Valley has a group and Dolan Springs has a group. That's wonderful. We should be all working together to clean up our county and to fight for it. We had good things going on in coming. The street drags are coming. The Beale Street Theater is doing good. Downtown looks great. So let's work together to clean up our neighborhoods too, and our desert. We want to keep our desert clean so that it's there for the children that are coming up beside us. I don't have children. Your children and grandchildren maybe. So that's the kind of thing we should be looking to spend this money on instead of a buffer between you and me. Mr. Watson and I have had a meeting, and it was very congenial. So I'm thinking I don't need another person to tell me what he said or to explain to me or explain to him what I said. So I'm hoping that you will realize that, and we could spend this money in a little better matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rich Letman.
Good morning. I'm Richard Letman. I live on Branding Iron Drive in Bullhead City. And I wanted to talk real briefly this morning about Hualapai Mountain Park. I want to give you some positive feedback, and then I have a small request. So I hike a lot around the county, and I'm up in that park almost every weekend except when there's snow on the ground. And in terms of positive feedback, I really want to compliment the ranger staff and the maintenance people up in that park. I don't know how much credit they get, but the park is for its limited budget, it is on a really great shape. And those rangers and staff up there really cultivate a lot of enjoyment for the people who come to the park. And the park is getting a lot more popular. It's had some very good publicity in some hiking publications and on the internet. And we have a lot more people coming up there. And my request is, I hike a lot with my dog, who I recently got, and he's just an 11-month-old beagle. And in 3 of the 4 past weekends that we've been up there, we've had encounters on the trails with other dogs that are not leashed, okay? And the county ordinance on this is pretty clear, is that dogs on the trails, not just in the park, but on the trails, have to be leashed, okay? There's some people who just don't want to comply and feel entitled, but there's another group, and I had last week's encounter with 2 young men in their 20s and their dog, and they truly did not understand that there was an ordinance against not having your dog on a leash. And in looking around, there's no signage, okay, in the trail area indicating that that is the case. So my request to you is, could we find a way next spring when we open up the trails again after the winter snow, that we could have some limited signage to really inform people dogs on the trails have to be leashed. And it's not just to protect me and my dog, but it's to protect the dogs themselves, okay, from some of the animals that reside up in the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Clement Shaw. Mr. Shaw, you here? Okay, I will put this aside. Cindy Landa Cox. Oh, are you Mr. Shaw? No? All right, going. Come on up, Cindy.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and Board. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I just wanted to mention this because I was told that I wasn't allowed to put it on the agenda, so I want to make sure that I say this and everyone that's listening could hear it. I'm going to read this public service announcement. 2019 property tax statements were mailed at the end of September. As a reminder, first half tax payments for real and personal property are now due, and unpaid taxes will become delinquent on November 1st. There are some exceptions to this delinquent date based on the amount of the property tax, and if you plan to pay your property taxes in full by December 31st. For more information regarding property taxes, please visit our website. And that's www.mojavecounty.us. In addition to the main office in Kingman, the Treasurer's Office will be accepting tax payments at the satellite offices in both Lake Havasu and Bullhead cities during the week of October 28th through November 1st. Details regarding office locations and operating hours are available on the Treasury website, and my staff also have printouts available. Just let me know if you, or actually you don't have to let me know, we're going to put it at the front table up there, so if you'd like to grab a copy of when we're open, please do. Here's the main thing is, due to recent legislative changes, there have been many questions from taxpayers with mortgages who have not received statements in the past. On May 3rd, 2019, the governor of Arizona signed Senate Bill 1033 into law, which changes how property taxes are billed to property owners with mortgaged properties. Senate Bill 1033 deals with property that is subject to taxation by the county assessor that is mortgaged, and the lender or bank pays the property taxes on behalf of the property owner or borrower. What the new law means to the taxpayer. Most lenders require taxes to be escrowed as part of the loan agreement and handle payment of these taxes for the borrower. If you have a mortgage on your property that pays property taxes on your behalf, you most likely have not received a property tax statement in the past. This is because the mortgage holder, the lender or the bank, sends a list of properties it will be paying property taxes on the owner's behalf to my office, and then my office deals directly with the loan holder to process these payments electronically. Senate Bill 1033 now requires that the owner borrower for these properties now receive a printed tax statement of taxes due on the property each year. That doesn't mean that your taxes are not due if you don't get the bill. Still is the law that the bill is a courtesy. For any questions that arise regarding the annual tax statement, mortgagors, owner, borrowers should reach out to their respective mortgagee or lender for clarification on whether or not they pay their taxes on their behalf. So if you have an escrowed account that you pay into through your mortgage, that they pay your property taxes for, please do not send us the money, because it will cause all kinds of refunds to happen. And unfortunately, if you pay and then your mortgage holder pays, the person that we refund is the mortgage holder, which would be the last person to pay, because they usually pay the last day that taxes are due. So then you'll call our office and we'll tell you have to call your mortgage holder. So it could cause a lot of issues. We just wanted to make sure that you knew what the law said. So please look it up. It also says on my auto attendant. So thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
Madam Chair, I have a question of the Treasurer.
Can you do that and call to public?
I think just for clarification on it, Mr. Attorney.
Just a quick question.
How much is this costing your department to do these extra billings?
The extra billings, we budgeted $60,000 for just SB 1033.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A legislative change that unfortunately we tried to fight and were unsuccessful as treasurers. All 15 of the treasurers disagreed with the bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no one else signed up, but I'll open it up if anyone wants to say something. Anyone? Hearing, seeing none, I will close the call to public. This morning we have a proclamation declaring October 2019 as Mental Illness Resources Month in Mojave County. Last week I was invited to the opening of Talus Harbor, a new geriatric mental health facility in Bullhead City. I was invited to read this proclamation by the Director of Marketing and Business Development, my friend Chaz Martinez, and I've asked him to come and read with me this proclamation. Chaz?
Thank you. Thank you, Hildy. Proclamation hereby stating on this day, October 7, 2019, in Mojave County, we join united with our county healthcare organizations, public officials, law enforcement, and citizens of this great community in our effort to provide resources that ensure medical and mental health care for those challenged with those conditions in our community. Whereas mental health is part of overall health, and whereas 1 in 5 adults experience a mental health problem in any given year, and whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by 24. Older men and women show the highest suicide rate in almost all countries, and reaching 48% of 100,000 in USA for white men, and more than 4 times the nation's adjusted rate of 11% per 100,000. And whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, and whereas early identification and treatment can make a difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery, and whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental health illness in order to get help when it is needed. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. Whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness.
Now therefore be it resolved that I, Hildy Angus, Chairman of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim October 1st through October 31st, 2019, as Mental Illness Resources Month in Mojave County, to shine a light on mental illness and fight stigma, provide support, educate the public, and provide facilities for care and advocate for those in our community that need help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hildy.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. On to the consent agenda. Items 5 through 53 will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion minus any items pulled for discussion. Supervisor Johnson?
44.
44. Supervisor Bishop?
Nothing.
Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Number 18 and number 28.
Okay. Supervisor Watson?
None this morning. Thank you, Chairman Angus.
Okay, and I've been asked to pull item 34, so I need a motion to approve consent agenda items 5 through 53, minus items 18, 28, 34, and 44.
Motion
So
to
moved.
approve.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 18, accept funds totaling $27,000 for the NARBA Institute, a nonprofit entity, to pay for all expenses associated with the Mental Health First Aid Instructor training scheduled for December 10th through 12th in Lake Havasu City, with a revised budget to the Miscellaneous Donations Fund, number 224-04-5106. Budget to include allocation of $5,968 of carryover funds, budget included in backup.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Denise, who are we training with this program?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Supervisor Gould. So we will be training, we're actually sending out invitations to specific agency leads so that they can identify members of their team that might be able to participate in this training. Because it's an instructor training, we're looking for people who can commit to at least 3 trainings per year, in addition to contributing some trainings out in the community. So not just engaging their own workforce in the training, but also looking at training other people in the community.
That's good to hear. I was looking at the backup information, and to me it gave the impression that after this 3-day class that these people would then be qualified to be instructors in the program.
That's correct. That is correct. They can go out. It's a 3-day training, and they can go out and then teach the 1-day training at that point. They'll be certified to do so.
So what they would be teaching would be an abbreviated version of what they learned?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, need a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move that item 18 be adopted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 28, approve and sign Amendment 1 to interim sole source contract number 19-SS07 with IC Solutions San Antonio, Texas for inmate phone services. Supervisor Gould?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is essentially the payphone system that is used by the inmates in the county jail. And it says, I could not find out what the total number of revenue from this. It says that the county takes 66% of the revenue. And I'm curious what the revenue was for, say, maybe last year.
And Madam Chairman, members of the board, Supervisor Gould, I'm sorry, but I don't have the revenue numbers with me today, but I'd be happy to get that information and pass it along to you. We're currently in the process and have issued a solicitation for the services, but we need to extend the current contract while we complete that process. But I would be happy to get the revenue information for you.
Thank you. And also, the backup material references that the inmate pays for this. And as a parent of a child who has spent some time in the county jail, I know it is not the inmate that pays this. It is the inmate's family that pays this. Because only the family can even make the list of people that the inmate is allowed to call. So in reality, what this does, this program loots the families of inmates. It's not really the inmate that pays the fee. So we might want to think about that. I think it's beneficial for inmates to be able to talk to their family, but I think it's detrimental to place an additional hardship on the families because of the behavior of the inmate. Just some food for thought. And it's not directed at you. I know that policy is not your issue. Policy is we on the board's issue, but thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? 128? Supervisor Gould, what's your pleasure?
I'm going to go ahead and move the adoption of item 28 since it's the extension of the contract, but we may want to take a look at this policy for the reasons that I stated.
Okay. We have a motion.
Chairman Angus, I have a question of Supervisor Gould. If the inmate or the inmate's family doesn't pay the fee, then are the taxpayers then holding the bill? Are we asking all of our county taxpayers to support the communications?
Not necessarily. I don't believe they can make phone calls if somebody doesn't pay. And there's no free phone call program other than they're required to be able to communicate with their attorneys.
Interesting. So you would support no phone calls for inmates? I'm confused. I mean, I don't understand where you're going with this.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with no phone calls for inmates, but the point is, my biggest point here is this is a profit revenue generator for the county. It's not just the recovery of the cost of the phone calls. It says we take 66% of the take. We take 2/3 of the money from this phone system. So what you may want to take a look at is a reduction of the take that the county does because you're putting a hardship on the families of these criminals.
Okay.
And bear in mind, if many of the families might also be criminals, but many of them are not. Many of them might actually be county supervisors. And I believe it's beneficial for that inmate to communicate with his family, but I don't know that we should place that burden of the profit burden, at least, on the families. Because we could alleviate that by 2/3.
Can I say something? I think that when someone goes to prison, everybody in the family suffers, and that's part of sort of the recovery of that person, is to see all the damage done. So I have no problem with this as written, but if you bring it back and have a better suggestion, I'm open to it. So we have a motion.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, There's been lawsuits over inmate canteens and everything. We've lost the ability to take the money from that. I would guess this might be poor wording. The 66% profit might be what it costs us. I mean, that might be something we check out, because I don't think we're running, we can't legally run something for profit at the county, especially in the jail. So it might just be poor wording.
Sure.
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
I also might like to point out that the amount of money it takes to incarcerate those individuals per day far exceeds any dollars that we might receive in any kind of remuneration from this. So I think it's really kind of a moot point. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? So we have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 34. Now, somebody in the audience here asked me to take this off the agenda, deny the requested extinguishment of 1,524 feet of continuous roadway adjoining APN 332-16-004F running westerly 660 feet along East Calle Charcas. Is that lady here? Would you like to come down and if you'll please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Linda Eaton, 1450 East Calle Charcas, Kingman, Arizona, 86409.
So this is your property?
Yes.
And what is the issue here?
Well, I've lived on this property since 1993. The roads that I am discussing here have basically just been like an easement road, and they're impassable, and they're dangerous. And they're dangerous not only for me, but they're dangerous for emergency vehicles as well. People use this road, and it's four-wheel drive low to get through it, and the engineer drove that and stated that. And they get stuck in the washes. They tear up my property. They are dumping animals back there. They're dumping trash. A lot of stuff happens. I've even been shot at on this road. As Mrs. Bishop is aware of, she had to serve a man when she was constable. I just feel it's very dangerous for the public. I feel it's dangerous for me, and people get lost on it and stuck in this major wash, and then they come up to my house and want help. I'm not able to help these people. Some are armed, and I'm scared.
Okay, thank you.
Also, there was one objection, and that was the one property owner that apparently lives in Scottsdale, and the rest, nobody had a problem with objecting. And Unisource, I had stated that I would allow them access to the property, even though the telephone pole ends at my property and I'm underground utilities, and there's nobody else around me. The road closure would not impact anyone. There's Cherim that people can use, and it's a very bad road. I have pictures of the road. I made copies for everyone on the board if they'd like to see them.
All right, we understand now. I'm going to ask Chris or Tim to come up and explain this.
Pardon me?
I'm going to ask Development Service. Yes, Chris Ballard to come up.
Yes, she mentioned something about amending, so.
Okay, so I think the issue here is this one was on the impression that this was going to be amended. Okay, come on up. If you can move over and thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good morning, Chairman Angus, Supervisors. This was a request for abandonment of an unmaintained county right-of-way. We went through our usual due diligence process, contacted utilities and affected property owners. There were two objections to the abandonment. One is Unisource, who has facilities in one or the other or both of these roadways, and they requested that an easement be retained for their use. We also had an objection from Peachtree Properties, who owns the property immediately north and east of Ms. Eaton, who stated they used the roadways, although our review indicates that abandoning or closing this roadway would not landlock them. They do have access from other roadways.
Okay.
So that's where we stand.
Can Chris come up for a second? So the reason I even took this off is because this woman said that she was on the impression that this wasn't going to be what was on the agenda.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, I did speak to the lady. Development Services also objected to the abandonment or extinguishment of these roadways. Our primary concern was Calle Charcas, which is a section line road. On Longji, we did not have those same concerns. When I spoke to her, I told her we would let Public Works know that we were not as concerned about Longji and would not object to that particular roadway being extinguished. The paper or the recommendation you have before you is a Public Works recommendation. We can clarify our position with Public Works. We can't change their paperwork, nor can we change their recommendation to you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions?
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Ms. Ballard, does this right-of-way was brought up before that could be used for utilities? Is that part of the reason for the right-of-way to begin with?
Mr. Johnson, members of the board, one of the features about public right-of-way is that they are, through franchise agreements, made available for the utilities to use.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to remind the board of previous actions. When we're talking public right-of-way, that means that the county has possession of the roadway. It's not just an easement that property owners granting for use. And generally, in the past, what has happened is if the board contemplated giving public right-of-way, county-owned and controlled right-of-way, and abandoning it, then that adjacent property owner would be required to purchase that additional land because that land would be added to their property. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Angus. To the applicant, are you prepared to pay for that property?
I was told it was an extinguishment of the easement, and that would be a $600 application fee. That it isn't a public road, that it's a easement road. That's what I was told.
Madam Chairman, could we get a clarification on that? Is it an easement or a right-of-way?
Mr. Hendricks, it's an easement. I misspoke earlier. And so thus far, the applicant has not paid the fee.
And that's correct. So that means that they own obviously that means that they own the property and they granted that easement for a specific use.
Okay, so her cost would then be $600, is that correct?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Watson, that would be correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that
the check is being held at the county engineering.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want you to be caught off guard. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Ma'am, this would not shut off access to the 3 properties that abut your property?
No, it would not. They have other recourse to get to their property, other access.
Okay.
I just plan to gate where my property starts and where my property ends, just a gate to keep the riffraff off of there for now. And if the property owner northeast of me plans to develop that road to make it passable to any vehicle and develop his land, I'll be more than happy to take those gates down. The gate on Longji would be past the telephone pole there, and I'm even willing to give Unisource a lock. If they want something like a chain lock, where you share a lock.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
usually throw their
I
lock
don't know.
on your chain.
And
so there'll be multiple locks.
I have no problem with that, but they really don't need it, but I have no problem with that because the pole would be on the outside of the gate. And I have underground all the way from the road.
Mike.
So,
Thank you.
And Madam Chairman, just access to private property probably wouldn't suffice. If Unisource intended to request it, it appears that Unisource requested that an easement for them be provided. An easement would necessarily need to be rededicated on this private property for a utility easement, and adequate access would need to be provided to that easement if you wanted to accommodate Unisource's request. And I would assume so. I would assume that Unisource would want that easement because their utility line truncates right there, and to extend it, they would need to go past that property.
Whose district is this in? This in your
They still need it right away.
It's either mine or yours.
can I counter that, please?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
The utilities go all the way down Wilkes Ranch Road. They go up Cheram, which is closer to that owner's property. The power pole that he is referring to stops at my property. It just services me.
Thank you.
Chairman Angus?
Yeah.
I have a question of Mr. Henley. My question, Les, is if we approve the abandonment of the 764 feet along North Longy, would that help part of the problem, or do they both have to be connected to fix this problem? Or
that would probably be a better question for Ms. Eaton, if Longy would address.
Because, what I'm looking at is the other road is a section line road, and I'm less apt to approve the abandonment of that, but the other one on Longy, I don't have a problem with that one.
Can I answer?
Certainly.
The problem with Longy is this big, huge wash. People are getting stuck in it. Emergency services get stuck in it. They get lost and stuck. And there's no way to get out. Now, Charkis, the only problem with that road is since there was a sign put on at Stockton Hill Road and Charkis, apparently there was a culvert put in there and then the sign came up. Well, people are using that as a dump area. They see that, they pull off Stockton Hill. I have been to the dump many times, taking people's trash, couches, appliances. I can't physically do it. I have to have friends do it. And I have many times seen taken in animals that get dumped on that road. So that's my main concern about Charkis.
Okay, so Linda, that sounds like that problem could be helped if our race department could go out there and try to alleviate some of the dumping problem and leave Carcass as it is and possibly approve the abandonment of the North Longy Road. Would that alleviate part of your problems?
Well, the problem is a race, you never know. These people do this at night mainly, so, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Would you like to put that into a motion?
Yeah, I'll give it an attempt. I make a motion that we deny the requested extinguishment of 1,524 feet of continuous roadway adjoining APN 332160004F running westerly 660, well, no, that's not going to work. I make a motion that we deny the extinguishment running along East Caucus and approve the extinguishment of the North Longy Street in North Kingman.
Does that sound right? Anybody? So there's a motion. I need a second. Any second?
I'll second the motion with the caveat that we have the Sheriff's Department and the Erase Department investigate the allegations the young ladies had.
I'll add that to my motions. Very good addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have to amend the motion or just, okay. You have to just say amended motion.
I did that.
Okay, and amended second, okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 4-1, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 44, approve the certificate of removal and abatement attached in backup for 26 parcels of personal property. Total amount to be abated is $6,331.60.
Is the treasurer still here? Madam Treasurer, I'm glad to see we're finally getting these up a little bit closer to when they should be taken care of. Now, I know you work with the Sheriff's Department on these. Do you have a list or any kind of documentation that shows when these taxes were tried to be collected or the property seized?
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Johnson, we receive an affidavit from the Sheriff's Office that says when they've looked, that they've done a diligent search to find it. In terms of when we send them delinquent taxes, we send them on June of the prior year. Is that correct?
Yeah, in December of the current year and then June of the prior year.
Okay, in December of the current year and June of the prior year for first half and second half. So they have the delinquent notice, the delinquent information very soon after as soon as we know that the taxes are due.
I didn't know that these were allowed to have split on them. I thought personal had to be one payment. Oh.
Is the assessor here?
I guess my question is, according to statute, unless it's changed, I haven't read it, I didn't read it before the meeting, but these are due and delinquent on the date, and there's no afterwards, like on regular property, how we can go 3 years and keep it going. Because this is personal, could be moved, which obviously all these are, except for the motel that we couldn't find, but I think we need to have a review of how we're doing these things, because it's like we're wasting a lot of time. I mean, if you don't get them the day that they're due, obviously this stuff disappears, and it just takes more of a waste of time for your department and the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. I believe, actually, Supervisor Johnson, that you let me know that a prior board had given the task to the sheriff to go and look for the property, and what we do is create the letters or the information. Do we create letters? Is that what?
We pass the delinquent list off to IT, and then they create the letters on the sheriff's behalf.
Right.
I guess that's the problem, because I don't think it's a letter writing, it's just my personal opinion, it's not a letter writing way to be. If they have personal property, we should be going out there and taking that property immediately. And you're correct, before it was a constable's, I believe in statute, the constable's the one that does it. So that was all I have. I just wanted to bring it up again. We seem to be wasting an awful lot of time on things that probably cost us more in paperwork and everything else than we're actually getting back. That's all. With that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 44 passes. Okay, we're done with the consent agenda. We're going to go on to public hearings. Item 54, I'm opening up the public hearing, discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution Number 2019-113, an amendment to the Mojave County General Plan and Desert Hills Fire District Area Plan from an HR, high-density residential land use designation, to a GC, general commercial land use designation. And I have one person signed up. Arkea Fritz I'm sorry if I mispronounced your first name.
Chairman Angus and fellow members of the board, I'm Greg. Greg is what
Oh,
that's
Greg.
supposed to say.
Yeah, I really mispronounced your name.
I'm the applicant. I just filled that out just so I was able to get up here and talk. But so I am representing the client here, and we're attempting to develop this property, and as part of our pre-design, we needed to address the zoning there. So to address the zoning, we need to address the general plan. So what we've got is high density residential there, and we're proposing to make that general commercial. So item 54 and 55 are bound together, so without...
Right, and so you're signed up 55, so...
Yeah, without 54...
Okay, any questions for the applicant?
I have a question, Madam Chair. What are you going to do for sewage?
Well, you know, it came up during the P&Z meeting. There's a misconception that each of these units gets sewer, and that is not true. We're going to have a set of restrooms at the office that we think we can handle with a septic system, and that would be the extent of the sewer there.
Okay, so these won't have any kind of facilities inside the storage units that'll...
No, absolutely not. As part of that approval with P&Z Commission, I mean, obviously we accept that there's no habitation within these units, so it's simply RV and boat storage.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak to item 54? If not, I'm going to close the call to the public hearing, and I'll need a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move that item 54 be adopted.
Any second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 55, I'm going to open the public hearing. Discussion and possible action to approve the adoption of Board of Supervisor Resolution number 2019-114, a rezone of assessor's parcel number 120-05-186 from C-RE to C2. Anyone like to speak? We've already heard from the applicant. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I move that item 55 be adopted.
Need a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 56 from Alan Tempert, our elections director. I'm opening the public hearing. Discussion and possible action. Approve a change in fees for the elections department is presented in the backup information. I have nobody signed up for this. Anyone? 56? I'll close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 57, I'm opening up the public hearing. Sitting is the Board of Directors for the Horizon 6 Improvement District. Discussion and possible action, approve the adoption of Horizon 6 Improvement District Resolution number 2019-1 to approve the petitions for addition to Horizon 6 Improvement District located in Mojave County, Arizona, and expand boundary of the Horizon 6 Improvement District to include 18 parcels totaling 127 acres north of the district's northerly boundary at Window Rock Road in the Lake Havasu City area. We do have quite a few people signed up to speak to this. You will come up. I will call you. If somebody has already talked about what you want to talk about, say if you're in favor or opposed. And the first up, well, first of all, let me read something that was asked that we enter into the record, somebody who couldn't be here, and that is Miss Nancy Clapp. And she just says, my husband and I do own property in Horizon 6, are adamantly opposed to any annexation of parcels. We hope we can count on your support. So that's just read into the record. So first up, Chris Klug.
Good morning. I'm Chris Klug. And I'm here with a group of people from Horizon 6, and we're here to address Agenda 27 and the discussion and possible annexation concerning the parcels, 18 parcels into our district. And the main concern, and the reason we're here, is the water situation involved with this. And the issue that, one of the big issues that we have is the fact that we have a lack of knowledge about what's been going on with our system. We've been told by city officials and engineers and so forth, with the city, the county, we have problems with our system. And these problems range from inadequate water pumps, we've got bad hydrants, we have relief valves that are shot, we've got all kinds of issues with our system, and we don't have any solutions for these things yet. No engineering has been done, no real studies have been done, and so we're at a loss. And we're wondering if you all have done any research on this, because you're supposed to vote on it, I think, today. And without adequate information, which we obviously don't have, well, I'm wondering, how can a good decision be made? So the topic here was discussion and possible action. Well, possible action, does that mean you're going to vote on this today or not? But also we have an issue with this annexation. Our firefighting capacity has been basically depleted or never existed, according to the new fire chief in Lake Havasu City. And so we have no adequate fire protection at all. And this is another problem that we have. So with all the issues that our system has, we really don't understand how 18 more parcels can be added to an area that has all these existing problems that have not been remedied. So we're kind of at a loss here. I don't know if you're going to vote on this today or what you're going to do, like I said before, but unless more information is brought to light and there are solutions, how can I say, brought up to remedy these situations, I don't know how a good vote can be made.
Mr. Klug, you said you were with a group. Are they people who have signed up to speak, or are you speaking
Correct.
on behalf of a group?
No, I'm speaking for myself.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay. I hope I've been clear.
Yes, thank you very much. Frank Dorfler Jr. Frank?
Madam Chairman, Supervisors, my name is Frank Derfler, and I own a piece of property that's as part of this discussion trying to get annexed into the water district. And I just want to make sure that past maintenance problems and current maintenance problems with that system are a completely different subject than trying to annex in additional parcels to that water district. And remind the board that recently 5 other parcels were just annexed into the water system with no problems. And I want to make sure that the board all got that letter that was written by Dennis Roberts, representing the landowners, and we're able to review that letter.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, we all receive everything that everybody sends.
Okay, I'm going to sit back and listen to what everybody else has to say.
Thank you very much.
So Chairman Angus,
yes.
Was this gentleman for or against? I was confused.
He owns some of the land once annexed in.
He's in favor, actually.
Okay.
In favor.
All right.
Right. You wrote that you're in favor.
I'm very much in favor of it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Butch Orth. I don't know, I'm having a hard time reading today. Ortiz. Yeah, that makes sense. And you're speaking against this today.
Good morning. My name is Butch Ortiz. I live at 4036 Gold Springs. And about the petition, I'm against it. I'm against giving my water rights away. There's a lot of discussion that has to be made, and before we make any decision like this, there's a lot of questions out there that I have on annexing into Horizon. If the new people are going to help pay for our system right now, that's pretty bad. But from my understanding is the people that want to annex in want to put their own water lines and pumps in and not use our system, and that allows me to give my water rights away. So I oppose that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary Van Roy, this time speaking in favor. I think that's a change.
My name's Mary Van Roy, and I live at 4034 Blue Canyon Road in Horizon 6. And I think I support my neighbors completely, but I think we've been given a lot of bad information, and it's been very confusing, and we don't have any answers to a lot of our questions. And so I think the people who touch on Window Rock with the properties are already annexed in 2015. I shouldn't use the word annexed. They were allowed to get into our water system, which none of us knew about. And now they're building beautiful homes there. And it doesn't seem to be that's an issue. And then the few along Window Rock above them, that seems like that wouldn't be an issue. The issue is hundreds of new homes. And if it's 18 parcels or less, that would make total sense. And I think I would agree to that. But because no one's explaining to us how many homes will ever really be built, I expect less than 18 because of the terrain and everything. But I think we've been misled by the newspaper and by other, some people have not been telling us what we should be knowing about our water system and stuff. So I didn't come prepared with anything. I'm just very frustrated by the news that it's hundreds and hundreds of homes when it's not. And then when we learned it was the hundreds of homes were annexed to the city, so the city is going to give them the water. I was like, well, then what's our problem? But nothing's clear, so I think that's my problem. And I'm in favor of those people just along Window Rock, but I'm not in favor of anything more than just a minimal amount of homes, because they already gave approval in 2015 to homes that we didn't even know were approved. So there's kind of a conflict here. Do you give them only a permission and then you don't give the next couple of houses up permission? So it's just very unclear. And of course our issue is more with the Board of Supervisors not having followed and watched over our Horizon 6 Improvement District over the last 15 years or so. So that's where that's really the brunt of our issue, and this thing has become the issue over seeing that. So I guess
Thank you.
In favor of those few homes along the front above the ones that are already accepted, but I'm not for hundreds of homes.
Thank you. I need a clarification. What we're voting on or asked to discuss today are 18 parcels, correct? And if there were any more, it would have to come back to us.
Well, anything outside of the district that's annexed, I mean, once something is annexed in, then you're going to have to follow the rules for lot splits and zoning and planning and so forth. And I don't know what those would be for this particular instance, but once you get in a geographic area, that geographic area is now into the district. So right now you're asking, I believe, for 18 lots.
18 lots.
That geographic area. And whether they're split in the future, that's going to be a planning and zoning question, and whether they can do that or not and so forth.
Okay. Any questions? Any other comments on that? All right, Leon.
Madam Chairman, if I could please. I'm so clear on this issue that I would like to postpone it or put it on the table for a couple of weeks to actually go down and kick the rocks. I don't understand what Ms. Van Roy is pointing at. I believe her concern is density, But as Mr. Esplin pointed out, if the parcels were to be brought in, there could be subdivision and those lots become smaller and more buildable. So if we could, I'd like to entertain a motion for it, table it for a couple of weeks to go down and really take a look at it for everybody's understanding.
Chairman?
We're still in a public hearing.
Yeah, thank you. We've got to finish up the public hearing.
Let's let the people who've come all this way have their say, and we'll talk after. Thank you, Supervisor Watson. Leon Pfeiffer? Says here you're opposed.
I am opposed.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Leon Pfeiffer. I live in the Gold Spring area. I've been there for 14 years. The water system that we have is very, very poor. If for some reason there's a fire, there's no water coming out of your hydrant or your sink. There's no water. If there's a problem with the lines, you have no water in your home. And the water problems that they have out there, it can be one a week where there's water coming out of the street where the lines are in bad shape. Now, there is on the fire hydrants that are out there now, I talked to the fire department. I have a picture of it. This is Gold Spring and Lakeside, and on the fire hydrant is a red marker that they placed. Now that red marker means that fire hydrant is out of service.
Put it on the, so everybody could see. There's a...
It's right in front of you.
Right in front of you. It gives on the podium. Thanks.
Right side up.
The other way.
Thank you.
Yes, the placard that you see there is placed onto the fire hydrant, and it says out of service. That means they can't even use these fire hydrants in case there's a fire. So if your house is burning, it'll probably go down because they're going to come out with 500 gallons of water on a truck or something like that. And we have no water service to speak of out there. We are just barely having enough to take care of what we have, which is to take care of the home itself. Probably insurance, on your home, if you do not have fire hydrants in that area, the insurance companies are probably going to have a problem with that. If your house burns down, are they going to pay or not? The area that we're talking about is very, very old. I've been in the Havasu area for 30 years. I've seen the dirt streets that were in this area and finally were paved. And this water line system that is out there is very, very poor. It is just barely holding together enough so that we can have water at our homes. So somebody wants to bring in 18 parcels of land. We can't even support what we have now. Probably if this was brought into that system, it would...
Go ahead, finish.
If this is brought into our system, we probably would never be able to even have the system we have now. And somebody is trying to make a lot of money off of our poor system.
Okay, thank you very much. Now speaking in favor, Shirley McNamara.
Good morning, Board. My name is Shirley McNamara. I live in 3598 Tarpon Drive in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. My husband and I are signers of the petition requesting access to the Horizon 6 Water District. Rumors abound that accepting the petition, you would be opening the door for hundreds of houses to be built within the 18 parcels. Requesting acceptance. To my knowledge, 9, possibly more, of the 18 parcels have been previously subdivided to their maximum of single-family homes, making 18 to 30 residences a more realistic number, and probably only 18. There also seems to be rumors that we are somehow in cahoots with the large subdivision at the edge of the city, which is just that, at the edge of the city, and we are in the county, which is why this petition was created and brought before you. The supervisor representing the Horizon 6 district could have squashed all these rumors at the last meeting as his constituents spoke before you, but chose not to and let the rumors prevail. Within the last 2 years, five parcels directly adjacent to the petitioning properties were somehow granted water and connected to the Horizon 6 district. Did they file a petition? Were there numerous meetings attended? Was there a public hearing? Did they pay a connection fee? Hopefully you have all had the opportunity to read Dennis Roberts' letter and can differentiate between rumor and fact. I hope you will vote to accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Deneen Wilhelmi. Speaking opposed this morning.
Deneen Wilhelmi, 4019 Gold Spring Road, half Donkey Acres. Yes and no. The yes is that from what I've got, that the city of Lake Havasu, there's a law that states that they cannot supply water outside of the city limits but there's two exceptions. One, if I have a piece of property and there's no water around, I can't drill, then I can accept their water. Second is if you're a water district. So these 18 parcels cannot go anywhere but to Horizon 6. And I don't even see what the big question is, because in a lawsuit, I think we would lose out by saying no. With that, the no part, I have concerns. I want to know what the material is that they're going to use in this 18 properties. I want to know the longevity of it. I want to know what the price of this stuff is going to cost. And especially when it comes to the pumps, I don't want to see a pump go in there that's going to last 5-10 years. I want to see something that's going to go in there that's going to last 15-20 years. One that's efficient, supply to water, and low in electricity. Plus, we're not looking at a 5 to 10 year investment here. We're looking at 100 years. We got to figure out what's going to happen in 100 years on this. The 18 lots, we all know they can be split. Don't ever fool yourself. The water allotment we have from the city, we're only using 50%. This is very, very misleading. When we put these 18 houses in there, this water allotment's will go up. They're talking about putting $1 million, $2, $3 million homes in there. They're going to do landscaping. They're going to be putting swimming pools in. They're going to be bringing animals in to water. And our percentage is they'll probably jump up to 75 to 80%. Plus, Horizon 6, the Donkey Acres, there's like 40 parcels out there that's not hooked up to the system. This is misleading too. We have a lot of parcels out there that's got single family trailers on there, small homes, and if they're being sold, what are they doing? Bulldozing them down and putting up bigger homes. More water's to use. So if you're to grant this, to let them hook up, as our percentage of water that we use goes up to say 60%, I want to see the city allocate us another 5% more. If it goes up 20%, we get another 10% allocation to raise up. This way, 50, 60 years from now, we will still have water up there. And remember this, when the last place is sold up there, the last development sold, and the builder's gone, guess who's left holding the bag? Horizon 6 water people, district. And I don't want to be standing there holding a bag of fertilizer. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Daniel.
Hello. I oppose at this time because there's not enough information. most of these points have been brought up. There's a point of traffic. And okay, 127 acres, we all have acre parcels, so that could be another 127 homes. Minus roads, whatever, they could be three-quarter acre parcels. But all the traffic is going to go down Window Rock. There's already a lot of traffic on that road, and there's a problem there that no one's even brought up. And our water system is, we have no fire protection that was canceled in July because the system won't maintain it or whatever. So taxing the system worse, that needs to be addressed. And we do have water main breaks on a regular basis, so our system needs work. Adding a bunch more to it, it doesn't make sense. Common sense says stop, fix it, then add, instead of just add and then break it as, fix it as it breaks. So I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vivian Johnson.
Hi, I'm Vivian Johnson, 4028 Blue Canyon Road. I share the concerns opposing this development with many of my neighbors. I'm concerned about traffic coming into the area, as the previous gentleman mentioned, and the use of our water. We have lost the services of the the fire department recently, last summer. And we're told that we have to install new pumps and water lines in our neighborhood. We can't afford to take on more neighbors, and even if it's just the 18, which might subdivide further to 127, we need to take care of the water lines for the people that are there. Another gentleman mentioned we're using 50% of our water. I'd like to say that we bought about 3 years ago and are developing our property. And there are many vacant lots in the area still that have not been developed that would be going onto those existing water lines. So I am opposed to this unless they come up with solutions for our fire department and the existing water lines coming into Horizon 6. We just simply cannot afford to have more neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lori Bevins. Lori? Lori is opposed.
Good morning. My name is Lori Bevins. I am opposed because there is a lot of questions that I still have regarding this annexation. I'm opposed until I get more information. One of the things is I don't know the impact that this is going to have on us. I know that we have 127 acres. My assumption is that it could be subdivided into 1 acre parcels, which means more on our allotment. Our allotment is 170 acre feet per year. So I agree, there's some concerns over that. The other thing is they will be excavating. I don't know, I talked to Buster Johnson a while back, and we were talking about trucks that are taking water out of the fire hydrants or whatever, tankers for excavation. Well, if you're excavating all that property there, my understanding is we're going to be getting billed for that because the city is putting on a master meter so that they can bill us for water theft, for fire flow, for leaks. And so Horizon 6 will be paying for that. So I don't know how when they annex these new parcels, that will be paid for because they do use water trucks when they're excavating. The other thing, I'm a little nervous, so I'm forgetting what I want to say. But I don't have the biggest frustration is that there is not information to the residents of Horizon 6. In the last 15 years or 20 years, there has not been maintenance done. Our committee has tried to get information. It's been 2 months. We still don't have information even on the money. You know, we've been given some financials that are summaries. The first financials we got had all the codes, billing codes, with no key. So what does that tell us? Nothing. Now we're getting some repair bills for the last 2 years because our repairs have been going up because of the leaks. But that's all we've got. We don't even understand where our money is going. And now we're adding in somebody else. I think that we need more communication from the Board of Supervisors of our water district. Who are you? We need better information. Kelly and Mike are doing everything they can, but we need more answers.
Thank you. Dennis Roberts, speaking in favor.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Council. I really do appreciate all of the conversation that's been happening here. I'm at a loss as to how to clarify this any further. The process has always been the same. You go and you petition. You meet the minimum requirements of that petition. There's a conversation about it, and then it's either voted on, yes or no. The conversation that most of the constituents here are having are related in that it is in Horizon 6, unrelated to the fact that all we're requesting is to become part of Horizon 6. There's no developer plan. We're not developers, property owners. And more importantly, the issues they're having only slightly impact us. We don't get fire protection. There is no fire protection up that hill. Fire trucks won't go up that hill. So there's a lot of miscommunication. I agree that it has to be clarified. I don't know how to do that any better than we have. Bottom line, I think the math has to work. There's enough water. Even if the system is in poor repair, it can be repaired. And as members of that district, we would be involved in those repairs. You can't be a member of the district and not be assessed fees for upgrades. So that's really the bottom line. We've met the minimum requirements. We will be members. We will be participating in the upgrades of that system. That's
Mr.
all.
Roberts, if this was denied, where would you then go to get your water?
You know, there's a couple of options. None are very good. Drilling wells, not a very palatable, very expensive. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I don't think there are too many good ideas. Some of the problems or the concerns that were expressed as to how much water is being used, it's math. We can show that even if everybody in Horizon 6 came on all at the same time, we're still using about half of the allocated water. Could there be instances where some property owners are using more? There could be. It's not a situation, though, where we anticipate the people up on that hill are going to be having horses and cows and pigs. It's not going to be that case. They're probably going to be the same kind of homes that are already being built out there.
Okay,
And
thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all that's signed up. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I didn't. What's your name?
Barbara Freitas.
Okay.
Madam Chairman and Board, I'm appalled by some of the things I heard today, that being that areas were brought into Window Rock Road for water that none of us knew about. That is not right. As a 19-year resident, I'm at 4014 Window Rock Road. As a 19-year resident of Horizon 6, I'm absolutely opposed to adding any new acreage, no matter what the size, to the boundaries of Horizon 6 Water Improvement District until such time as the existing issues are resolved. The assessment of all the existing water issues are the responsibility of the 266 parcels as set up by Horizon 6 Water District and should not include any other properties. I believe every age-appropriate resident of Horizon 6 should be allowed to vote on addition of any acreage to the water district or be referred to Lake Havasu City for any and all other services. After existing systems have been brought up to Lake Havasu City fire codes, and only then should these services be offered to any new acreage that will be part of Horizon 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I don't see any. Thank you.
In my 19 years, I've seen somebody come by 3 times to flush out our hydrant, which is right in front of my house, and it's currently red tagged.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not impressed.
Understood. Anybody else? Sir?
I'm Clement Shaw that you were looking for.
Yeah, you're the guy.
I bought a house on Littlefinger in '01. We bought the house, everything was fine. All of a sudden I find that I've got an assessment. We haven't paid for the paving. So we paid that, that was paid off. In fact, it was paid off early. We had a meeting here a couple of months ago on a water problem. I do not live in Arizona. I live in California presently. My son lives in the home. I bought it for him and his wife and my granddaughter. I went to a meeting that said we had water problems. Whew, that was new to me. I didn't know anything about it. The problem we have is the system that they've got. They get water from the city. There is adequate water from the city. This is what we were told at the meeting. But the pumps that are there are worn out. They were of the size that was needed at the time that they were installed. This was in, I think, '07 or '08. There's been an increase since then. They're shot. It's between $110,000 and $120,000 to bring the pumps up to today's standards. Not anybody annexing in, not anybody building, just what we've got use for today. Where's this money coming from? They haven't got any idea. Buster stood at that meeting and sucked on his water bottle, and he just basically threw up his hands. He says, I don't know what we're going to do. We've got to do something. And it looks like we're all going to be getting a bill in the future. Now you're going to add on possibly dozens and dozens of more homes onto our water system. Let them go get their own damn water. We have a water problem. We are going to have to repair it. We're going to have to pay for it. And if we do that, we don't want somebody coming in and tapping onto our water lines. The city has a, I'll shut up, but
Thank you very much.
we have it's got a lot of work that has to be done before any decisions can be made.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the gentleman brought my name up. If you were at that meeting, we had the county manager, our engineers, our improvement district people there, the mayor of Lake Havasu City, the fire chief was there, and I believe all your questions were answered. To say that we threw up our hands and said we had no idea where you're going to get something is a total false.
Well, if you remember, I was sat right at the very front of it.
Yes, I
And
do.
I asked the engineers, quote unquote, sitting up there, if the city had enough water. And they said yes. And I said, how do you know? Well, they told us that. Gee, when I bought my house, they told us we had plenty of water. You know, it's not, we don't have good answers yet. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take, you know what it's going to take to figure it all out.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's nobody else signed up. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing for item number 57. Supervisor Johnson, this is in your area?
I'll defer to Chairman Watson if he has a...
Supervisor.
Would you, I mean, the Supervisor Watson, if you wanted to continue this until the next meeting, if it give you ample time to look at it?
Thank you very much, Supervisor Johnson. Because our next meeting is in Lake Havasu City, I think it would behoove us to take another look at this, and for my part, to become more educated on the issue. I'd appreciate it. So for that, I'd like to table this item until October 21st meeting, Lake Havasu City.
Okay.
Okay, I believe we have to continue it till that meeting.
Okay, so the motion is to table this item until our October 21st meeting, which will be in Lake Havasu City.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Before we vote, would it be, is this the appropriate time to ask questions of staff that have come up from the testimony?
Well,
Sure, you can if you wish to, before we vote. This is the time to do that.
I believe
yes.
because after we vote, I don't think I could ask the question. I don't think I'm allowed to answer the questions.
But you'll be able to ask in October
Yeah.
21st.
It's addressing annexation. We're just addressing this agenda item. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm curious why the residents in Horizon 6 Water District are having trouble getting the numbers and the information that they've requested.
Why they're having trouble getting it, Supervisor Gold, I can't answer, but I can give answers to some of their questions if you like.
Okay.
To give a little background, and Supervisor Johnson, I apologize, you know the background much better than I do, so if I misspeak, please correct me. But the water system in Horizon 6 was built 30 some odd years ago and was designed to provide fire flows that were required at the time. Over those 30 years, requirements have changed to where the fire flows no longer meet standards, as well as I believe there was a regime change within the Lake Havasu City Fire Department that affected their willingness to accept those non-standard flows, which resulted in the red tagging of the fire hydrants and their hesitation to provide fire protection. To address the question of adequacy, in your background, the numbers are there. We get about, Horizon 6 gets about 152,000 gallons of water per day that's allotted by the Arizona Department of Water Resources. Usage is a little bit less than half of that. There was a comment on properties within Horizon 6 that were not hooked up to the water system. 265 properties are hooked up out of 297 that are eligible, so 89% of eligible properties are already hooked up that are consuming that less than 50% figure. There was a comment on pressure reducing valves. We are aware of the issue with the pressure reducing valve and are currently working with procurement on a contract to replace the PRVs in Horizon 6. There was a question of the district paying for this work, any of the connections, lines, everything that would be required of any of these 18 parcels to hook on would be totally at their expense, in addition to paying the $2,200 per connection fee that the board approved.
Would that work be done to our standards?
Yes, sir.
And would that then become part of the water district and be their responsibility to maintain that if those properties were annexed in?
Generally, I believe we accept responsibility on our side of the meter, and the property owner accepts responsibility on their side of the meter. I believe.
Since this goes up it essentially goes up a street that goes up a hill.
Yes, sir.
Would their meters then be at the base of the hill or at their properties on the road?
It should be at the property line where it leaves public right-of-way and enters their property.
Okay.
There was a comment, as I mentioned, the $2,200 per connection fee, that extends out to $39,600 that would come into the district as revenue, and that may not sound like much, but it is a significant amount of revenue to bring into Horizon 6. Our current cash on hand for Horizon 6 is in the neighborhood of $29,000. So it's a very lean district in terms of having lots of money to work with and fix things. The comment on bringing in hundreds of homes, as Mr. Esplin noted, any expansion of this request, anything in excess of 18 connections, any further land divisions would of course need to come back to the board for several actions to put them in effect. So this isn't a bait and switch. There was a question raised on leaks. I asked this morning what our leak history was. You may or may not be aware that we contract with Lake Havasu City to do emergency repairs because they're closer to the district than we are for emergency responses. I'm told that they repaired 6 leaks over the summer in this 30-year-old system, and we're pretty certain that that's a good number because they bill us for their work, and that's what they billed us for.
Did they give you any comparison to Lake Havasu systems and their numbers of leaks?
No, sir.
Thank you.
The issue of water trucks, if the person who brought that up, I'd love to give them a card so they can call us. It sounds like someone's bootlegging water out of the system, and we all need to put a stop to that. And I believe that's all I have to share with you, unless you have any questions.
Let's see if that got all of mine. Good job, Mr. Henley. You answered all my questions.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you, sir.
questions? Ms. Stanley? No.
I have a question.
Yes.
In order to bring the system up to specifications in which the fire plugs could be used throughout the system, how many dollars are you looking at investing in upgrading the system to where it would be acceptable?
Oh boy, I'm going to take a beating here shortly on the Malibu Improvement District over a number I gave someone off the top of my head. But
I'll give you within $100,000.
It would be in the hundreds of thousands would be my guess.
To upgrade
it would certainly require additional pumping, additional PRVs, and quite possibly larger pipes to be laid in the street.
In order
to meet current fire flow requirements.
To meet the current fire flow, we're talking about at least a couple $100,000?
That would be my order of magnitude guess, yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Mr. Henley, the revenue from allowing these 18 parcels to come into the district, that would go back into the district for repairs and
into
bringing
the district
things
operating
up.
fund for repairs, replacements, upgrades, and so forth.
Okay, thank you.
Any other one?
Just to clarify for Supervisor Watson, fire flow is only one problem. The system wasn't really built. It originally was built to service water needs, and the hydrants were put in even though they weren't up to standards. If Horizon 6 petitions and changes the system and fixes it up, That's only the first step. They will then, or we as a board, would have to contract with the city for fire protection, which they've made pretty clear. It's no longer going to be the $5 a month per hookup that we have now. It's probably going to be in the range of $500 to $800, something like that, per lot. So it's going to be another expense on top of the water.
I have a question for Supervisor Johnson. So what is their other avenue for fire protection?
We had a pretty good sweetheart deal from the city for a lot of years. They weren't recovering their costs at all. And the city will still respond to fire protection. They will just bill for it now. Same thing with medical assists. We don't have that many calls out there for fires, you know. Obviously, when you need it, when you have a fire call, that's when you really need them. But a lot of it is covered by your insurance and that sort of thing. But the district could continue to use Lake Havasu City on a per basis issue. A medical call, they told me, is between about $300. It averages to $500, which again could be covered on insurance, or you could go with Desert Hills Fire District or another fire district around there. Or, I mean, you know, technically could form their own fire district, but that cost prohibitive.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? So I believe we do have a motion to table it, to continue it until the October 21st meeting in Lake Havasu City. And did we have a second on that?
No, ma'am. Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have a request to take a, 5-10 minute break? Okay, 10 minutes. We'll come back at 11:15. Testing. Okay, now it's back on. Okay. We're off now to item 58. It's the regular agenda. Discussion and possible action. Approve reclassifying erase position number 200342, Program Coordinator, erase, class code 4560, from pay range 19 to pay range 21. Motion or questions? Anyone? Where's Mike? He not make it back? Anyone?
Chairman Angus, I'll make a motion that we approve.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're in the meeting, right? We're all agreed we're having the meeting? Okay. Item 59, discussion and possible action, approve salary placement of the candidate for position number 202007, Road Superintendent in the Public Works Department at range 24, step 8, annual salary of $90,708.80 in accordance with the step placement requirements set forth in the Mojave County Personnel Policies and Procedures.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval.
I need a second. Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
That's opposed?
Yes.
Okay, 4-1. Item 60, discussion and possible action, direct staff to maintain historic jail at site of the Superior Courthouse and future Law and Justice Center at 401 Spring Street in Kingman in status quo functional condition.
Madam Chairman, motion to approve.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 61, sitting as the Board of Directors of the Malibu Road Improvement District, discussion and possible action to accept district engineer prepared plans, specifications, assessment diagram, and estimates for the improvements to Malibu Road, Huntington Drive, and Tony Drive, and approve Malibu Road Improvement District Resolution of Intention, number 2019-1, declaring the Malibu Road Improvement District's intention to complete improvements is described in Malibu Road Improvement District Resolution, number 2019-1, accepting the petition to incur expense, estimated to be $4,408.42 per district parcel. I do have people signed up for this one. Mr. Bill Schleter, speaking in favor.
Yes, I'm Bill Schleter, 3087 Malibu in Golden Valley. This has been a pending issue and a long-suffering issue in the fact that we did receive a majority of people that wanted to improve the Malibu and the other two roads. We had a cost at that particular time that was not accurate. It went out for bid, had one bidder from Phoenix that came back with an outrageous price, and since then the county fortunately has gotten involved and given us a new price, which is still fairly large in comparison to our initial price. However, from what I understand, there has been additional requirements that have had to been added to that particular project. Still, there's no doubt in my mind that those that want to improve the area, want to improve our health, want to improve the environment, want to improve our property value will still vote yes, or if there was another full vote. Those that were opposed to it would prefer to live on a dirt road or certainly not have to pay additional to, in the long term, increase their property value. Those folks are still voting no. I approve it. I'm for it. And I guess that's all that I have to say.
Thank you very much. Rhonda Capriglione? It's close? And you'll be speaking opposed to this item.
That's not common around here.
Yeah, say it for me.
Capriglione.
Oh.
I appreciate the opportunity to address the board, and I am opposed to the current question. When it was originally approached to us, the estimate was $1,165 per parcel. Even at that point, I was opposed to it. I live on the corner of McConaughey and Huntington. McConaughey is currently paved. At this point, the proponents keep saying it's going to increase my property value, which there's really nothing to support that. I currently live on paved road. They also cite that one of the reasons to pave is to decrease the amount of dust in the area. We live in the middle of a desert in a very windy environment. I have actually spoken with several of my neighbors who lived on McConaughey prior to being paved and said that the paving only served to increase the speeding on the road, did very little to minimize the dust. I do not utilize Huntington. My address is 3104 West McConaughey. I use the front entrance of my property, and so I am going to be held accountable for paving a road I don't use. Matter of fact, to my understanding, there is no property that has Huntington as their address. It's merely a crossroad. Anyway, I have also serious concerns that my property will be inaccessible during monsoon season. Currently, the runoff from McConaughey will leave huge ruts in my, access. So in that event, I do use my alternate entrance. Anyway, short story, I am opposed to the paving. A lot of it has to do with the financial aspect. Even with the bond, it will cost the equivalent to a second tax bill for 10 years. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim Constellato. Speaking in favor.
Morning, Madam Chairman, honorable supervisors, and in this particular case, Board of Directors of the Malibu Improvement District. My name's Jim Constellato. I live at 3024 Malibu Road, Golden Valley, Arizona. I am in favor of this. I'm part of the original organizing committee. I'd like to mention that another initial organizer, Stan Lundstrom, is not here to do this thing. We go from $40 a month to $30 a month approximately. So I looked at some other relevant information. According to statistics, if you drive on a gravel road opposed to a paved road, you're going to get 5 miles less per gallon if your car averages 15 miles per gallon. So anybody that's in the improvement district, except for a few that live on the corners like McConaughey and Huntington, McConaughey and Tony Joe, you're likely going to drive 2 miles a day going in and out into town. So you're going to save quite a bit of money right there, maybe $10, $12 a month, depending on the cost of gas. You're going to save wear and tear on your tires, your suspension system, and your oil changes in your car. So I think you can realize about a $20 a month saving just in that factor. So then if we continue to look at some other things, people say, I can't afford it. Well, I have to respect their opinion. But at the same time, when we talk about money, we're also talking about priorities. If we're talking $30 a month, if a person smokes just one cigarette a day and one store-bought beer, they've spent that $30. They smoke one cigarette and have a Hershey bar, they've spent the $30. Or a soda pop, they've spent the $30. If they go to fast food restaurants, and statistics show that most families go a couple times a month. So let me move fast here. So, from the point of view is to priorities, and $30 a month is not a huge amount of money. So, but more importantly, and if you'll bear with me here just really quick, health. The dust abatement reduces the current levels of dust greatly. We can prevent things like valley fever, silicosis, chronic bronchitis, allergies, asthma, COPD, and existing respiratory issues. The cost savings alone with prescriptions, co-payments, preventive health care, and all of that, you would far exceed the money you're going to spend. And it's not only for senior citizens, we got children on the block. We want to preserve their health. So that's a great thing. Safety, I don't care what anybody says, a paved road is much more safe, and so we could definitely prevent possible injury or damage. So I just want to wind this up by saying I'm 100% for this. I've talked to engineer Les Henry. I know why the estimates are up higher. He's probably going to talk about that. You know, we don't live alone in society. We have to depend on our neighbors. And so this is not the Jim Consolato Improvement District. It's not the Joe other parcel owner improvement district. This is the Malibu Improvement District. And so, you know, this is about all of us. This is a time where we need to be united.
Thank you, Jim.
And not divided.
Thank you. Know how hard you worked on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Bradley Morrison.
Madam Chairman and board members, my name is Bradley Morrison. My address is 3284 West McConaughey Road, Golden Valley, Arizona, and I am opposed to the current question, and I am one of the 4 parcels in this district that actually already am on a paved road because of the connecting roads, Tony Joe and Huntington. I would like to remind the board that this district was formed by a 2-parcel majority out of 74 based on $1,165 total cost estimate per parcel. After the board meeting last December 17th regarding appointment of district engineer, I spoke with the original organizer of the district, Mr. Stan Lundstrom. We talked about how the cost of the project may be more than the original cost estimate. I made the statement that I didn't think he could have acquired the needed signatures on the petition to incur expense to form this district if the cost was even $1,500 per parcel. Mr. Lundstrom agreed with that statement. At this same meeting, one of the current organizers of the district, Mr. Jim Consolato, stated, and I quote, "After some research and much discussion among the parcel owners in the Malibu Road Improvement District, there appears to be a consensus that the original total cost estimate to complete the paving project was a miscalculation, and that resulted in a misrepresentation to the people. If the board cannot see clear to seek another engineer and continue on with the process, then the consensus basically is we would like to dissolve the improvement district regretfully." End of quote. My point is that this district was formed based on an inaccurate cost estimate and would not exist if a more accurate estimate was given to the property owners at the start of the process. I don't believe the majority of the property owners in the district will now support this project with an estimated cost more than 3.5 times the original estimate. My concern is that once this district was formed, there is a bias to completing the project regardless of cost, and stopping it becomes more difficult even though a majority may no longer approve. I can only hope that this is not the case. Since there was no notice of this vote to property owners in the district prior to this meeting, the vote may be a procedural formality, but I believe the history of the district is important to keep in mind before any vote that may lead to an assessment to property owners in the district. And I should point out that a lot of people, most of the property owners that bought on Malibu were very aware of the graded road and a dirt road, and a lot of them like it that way. And that's all I have, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Harry Hoyler? Harry?
My name is Harry Hoyler. I live at 3285 Malibu Road, Golden Valley, and I am opposed to this project. Excuse me. I was originally in favor of it. I signed it thinking that possibly this would not go through, and as I told the organizers at the time, the only reason I'm signing this is just so you'll leave me alone. Well, it has gone a little bit further. Our cost projections have been all over the place. We have not been able to settle on one simple cost projection. I've asked on numerous occasions, can you give me an idea of what the paving project will look like, the plans. If this pavement has a crown on it, it's going to exacerbate the flooding on Malibu Road and Tony Joe. That is undeniable. It's not even open for dispute. If we put a swale in the roadway, well, then that will help. It will channel the water down into the desert and the BLM, and I don't think they'll complain about that a great deal. The other reasons that I have concern are about the speeders that will be on Malibu Road. We already have a problem with this. On McConaughey, it's a raceway. I invite you to go down to McConaughey and travel from Old 66 down McConaughey and look at the acceleration marks and the donut marks on the roadway. We really don't need that. We are a little bit of a growing community. We are seeing more children out in our area. And the last thing we need are more speeders on Malibu Road. As I said, it is already a problem. I fear that if the road is paved, McConaughey is 35 miles an hour. Does this mean that Malibu will be 35 miles an hour? We also have old water lines. I was told by a member of the water company, I don't know this to be factual, but I was told we have old cast iron pipes in the ground along Malibu. Well, obviously, every time we pave something, and I don't care where it is, we get it paved, it looks nice, then we tear it apart so we can put a new water line in. Never fails. Look at Stockton Hill up here on that project. I have concerns about the property value issue. I understand, well, property values will go up. That's pie in the sky. We don't know that. If they do go up, and the county gets wind of it, of course, an assessment, then our property taxes will go up. This is really a no-win situation. Madam Chairman, members, I appreciate your time and thank you very much. And once again, I am opposed.
Thank you very much. And last, I have Robert Bedora.
Hello, I'm Robert Bedura. I live on 3161 Tony Joe Drive, right on the Malibu and the corner of Tony Joe. And there are a lot of reasons that I'm opposed, and a lot of them what came up as far as the water runoff. As far as the property value, I'm not moving anywhere. Okay, property value goes up, of course, I have to pay more for my taxes and all that. A few things that I have seen, which really doesn't, it kind of relates to this, but neighbors are turning against neighbors right now just because of this whole situation. I've lost 2 friends already that were neighbors because of this stupid thing. Okay, let me get back on track here. Okay, one thing I was wondering, okay, since it went up almost 4 times, the value that people did, vote on it, I was wondering, is there going to be a re-vote on it since it's up that much more? And plus, because there are new neighbors that actually came in since this has happened, and I know of a few that came in and they have a no on it. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a re-vote on it or how that happens. But, and as far as the tires go, when I moved here, I knew I was on dirt road. Okay, the tires, basically I can replace my tires 7 times within the 10 years on this whole thing as far as the cost goes. Dust allergens, I mean, the people that moved out here, if they had dust allergens, they would have known, okay, they're on a dirt road. I'm against paying for something I do not want. That's basically it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak that wasn't signed up? Okay, Supervisor Bishop?
Yes, this is in Golden Valley, which is within my district, and as everyone is aware, Golden Valley is a a growing area. The population is obviously going up, and I'm in favor of any improvement to the roads in Golden Valley, including an improvement district. So I'd like to hear from Mr. Henley about the dollar amount, because going from $1,200 to $4,000 is quite a jump, and I'm curious as to what the annual cost is to a property owner over the 10-year assessment period.
Supervisor Bishop, Supervisors, thank you for giving me an opportunity to address that. Supervisor Watson, this gets back to my comment a few minutes ago about the danger of giving quick, off the top of your head estimates. Essentially, I was asked the question, what does it cost to chip seal a dirt road? And the answer is around $3.50 a square yard, and that figure got locked into stone and people ran with it. The difference between that figure and where we are today, 43% of the current cost, the $4,400 per parcel cost, is in administration fees, bond counsel fees, reserves required by ARS, financial consultants, and other things that really don't pave the road. The other thing that's changed is since that time we received an extremely favorable bid for soil stabilization services, and we would like to apply that on Malibu to get a much better built, much longer lasting, much more durable, and less maintenance intensive roadway. This is the same product that we are planning on using on Shinneramp Road. You may be aware of the work going on out there. So between making it a better roadway and administrative fees that were not part of the $3.50 a square yard figure that I threw out, and that's still a good figure for the chip seal portion of it. That's how the increase came about.
And then the Mr. Hoyler had a concern as to whether or not this road would be crowned or
Our intent would be to build it to county standard details, which would include a crown and side ditches.
Okay. Do you foresee any flooding issues based on the?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, and then the annual cost to a property owner, do you have a figure on that? I'm sure I could do the math. $4,400
divided by 10 would be about $440.
$440 a year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For 10 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that answers my questions. Thank you, Les.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hey, Les? Does the statute require that people be notified with the price?
Kelly, can you answer that?
Well, I'm sorry.
It might be
or
better.
Perhaps Ryan?
Yeah, I'm looking those up right now.
Somewhat rhetorical, but.
So the notice of resolution, which has been sent out, or right, the district shall mail to the owners with notice that contains. Okay, so this comes afterwards. So I'm sorry to kind of going through my head here. What we've done, we've already notified them of today's hearing, and in that hearing, we've notified them of here's what's going on. If it passes today, then the notice will have the date of the resolution of intention, a description of the work to be performed, a total amount of the engineer's estimate of costs and expenses of the work. And if you look in the backup, we've got all that information. So it'll be mailed out to them after this if it's passed today.
But it has not been mailed out to them previously.
I'd have to look to see if that's been done.
Madam Chairman, Supervisor Gould, this has happened before in the county's past history, to where on the formation documents there is no engineering that's been done, so there is no actual requirement to provide, that I'm aware of, any dollar amount to say this is what it's going to cost you, because to get that dollar amount, you need you should actually have a petition to incur expenses. And what that would allow is an engineer to be hired and paid for, and then to proceed to throughout the project. So I remember in the past in Golden Valley, we had did the mistake of throwing out a cost estimate on one of the petition processes, and it took like 20 years for the project to get to the petition to incur portion, and at that time the costs were irrelevant and should have never been included. So that's the danger of including something or having something included unintentionally in that type of a process. Thank you.
But for full disclosure, I voted against the legislation that created this process in the legislature. I have a problem with going out and telling people what an estimate of what something's going to cost. And I'm not assigning blame to anybody for doing this. It's just the way that this process works is flawed. You go out and get a petition signed, and then essentially anything that the board decides to do, as long as it's pavement, can then be lumped on those property taxpayers. To me, to make this process work, you should, a petition to come up with a price should be circulated, and with the money being assessed to do that. And then when that cost comes up, it should go back to those same people to decide whether they want to sign a petition to continue. I don't like blank checks, not as a representative and not as a taxpayer either, and not in my business. I don't sign blank checks. And this is somewhat of a blank check process, so I have a problem with the process in general. You're talking about a hard surface. What does a hard surface equal in this case?
Our intent would be to use our soil stabilization product, which is 4 inches of a chemical treatment that binds the soil together, essentially into almost like a weak concrete, and then lay a chip seal on top of that for a surface course and a seal.
So it's a polymer stabilization
essentially
for the base, and then you're going to put an asphaltic emulsion on top of it?
A chip seal on top of it, yes.
Okay. And that's all I had. Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair.
Chairman Angus, I have a question of Ryan Espon. Is there a legal process to remove a person's name from the original petition that requires 51% of the property owners?
No, I don't. There's no. You sign it, it's been submitted, we're done with that part.
Okay.
There is a process, I believe, to dissolve it, but that's a different issue and a different question. Ultimately, you'd have to come back and so on. But no, to remove your name, I don't know of any process of doing that. You can take that into consideration. You can say, hey, you know, I voted for it this time and now I've changed my mind. You can take that into consideration, but there's no legal step to remove your name.
Okay, so a petition to incur expenses now, does that have to be signed by the 51% as well? Or
We've
how does that work?
already reached that. We've already passed this point. I mean, we've done the petition to incur. They've done they did the petition to create, the petition to incur. We're at the stage now of doing a resolution of intention at this point.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Supervisor Gould, in the past, we've had it where the prices come back too high and the people have come to us and asked us not to do it, and we didn't do it. So it's not just because we passed this today and it comes back at $14 million, we're going to go ahead and do it. We still have the opportunity to say, no, we're not going to do the bidding, or not do the project.
Yes.
Madam Chairman. Then what would incur that to happen? That now that we're going to send them a notice out?
Yes. So if it passes today, then the passage of the resolution of intention is sent out to the property owners, at which point they'll have an opportunity to object if they wish to.
So it'll come back to us for another vote then?
Not necessarily. It depends on if people come back with objections or not. If there's no objections, it moves forward. But if there's a sufficient number of objections, then it can be.
Are you through?
Thank you.
What's a significant amount of objections?
I think it's 1/2. I'm looking at it right now. The owners of a majority of the frontage, the owners of a majority of the acreage contained within the limits may make a written protest against the improvement within 20 days after the date of the mailing of the notice of the passage of the resolution of intention.
What if this didn't pass today? If we didn't go forward with the intent?
It'd
It's
be
just done.
If you decline to pass the resolution of intention, you'd be done.
What was the original percentage of the petition?
51.
It was 51, so it was very close.
51? Yeah.
Do you remember, Jim? About 51? No, you just if you remember, it was 50. Okay. 51 and a half. So it was close. It was close. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Chairman Angus, my feeling on this is there was the majority that wanted this to occur, and if we pass this today, the ones that have changed their mind have 20 days to let us know that they are essentially changing their mind and they're no longer in favor. So I think we almost have to go with the majority and let the minority that don't want it to come forward.
So it's just a process.
Yes.
Right now, this is the process, but it still can be stopped.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
Ryan, how many complaints did you have to get to bring it back to the board?
Well, again, these are kind of old laws. Let me just emphasize, some of these are just, they've been around for a long time and haven't been updated very much. But the way I read it is the owners of a majority, right, they can file protests within 20 days. It says when an objection to the extent of the assessment has been filed, the board of directors shall fix a time for hearing the protest, and then they determine whether there have been, at the hearing, the board of directors shall hear and pass upon the objections. The board may modify the extent of the proposed assessment, in which a new resolution and so on, or they can say, no, we want to go forward with it. Let me see.
Yes.
So I think it takes a majority.
Sounds like
it does.
Majority.
That's what it sounds like.
I think Mike Hendricks has something to add.
Yeah, and I'm trying to go off of memory, but if you receive objections, then it starts the process. Then you hold a public hearing.
Yes.
And you take into consideration the objections. So one or more objection, if you believe it's substantial, the board, if it was me, recommending to the board, if you receive one or more objections, then you would go into that process and then make a determination on whether this project would go forward. Or like our attorney said, the process could be terminated today if you didn't go forward with this intent to incur.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I could enter.
Yeah, I think so.
Just a little bit of information. Mr. Consolato has indicated a number of about $40 a month, which is probably close, but those will be added to your tax bill. It'll come in as a figure of the $400 to be paid with your tax bill each year. Just as long as that's clear, it's not a $40 a month bill that you're going to be receiving in the mail. Two of the respondents already enjoy the benefit of living on McConaughey. So they enjoy the benefit of a paved road at the same time saying no to the improvements for the others. So I'd just like to point that out. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? You want to say something, Supervisor Johnson? Nope.
Chairman Angus, since there's no other discussion, I'll make a stab at a motion.
Go ahead.
So I will make a motion that we accept the district engineer's prepared plans, specifications, assessment diagrams, and estimates for the improvements to the Malibu Road Improvement District as described in resolution number 2019-1, accepting the petition to incur expense estimated to be $4,408.42 per district parcel.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Let's take a roll call on this.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. 62, this is brought by Ken Cunningham, our Human Resources Director. Discussion and possible action to approve changes to personnel policies and procedures, section 2.6.J, holidays. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 63, discussion and possible action, approve changes to personnel policies and procedures, Section 2.35, compensation for overtime.
Motion to approve.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 64, discussion and possible action, approve changes to personnel policies and procedures, Section 2.7, workers' compensation, WC policy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is an old one. Item 65, right? Is that what I'm up to?
Yeah, 65.
Clerk of the Board, discussion and possible action to approve the appointment of Gary Watson to the Mojave County Water Authority from June 1st, 2019, until such time as the board determines a replacement or until his term in office expires.
Chairman Angus, motion to approve.
Any second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 66, brought by Buster Johnson. Discussion and possible action. Update from staff on the MVIDD following proposals, the joint farm lease agreement with Wakimoto Farms and Mojave County's water allocation from MVIDD. Supervisor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Place us on the agenda to see what our next move is going to be.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to field that if I may.
Sure.
In late 2017, early 2018, our consultants recommended the county would need to establish standing in our efforts to present the transfer of Colorado River water from our river communities to central Arizona. They recommended that we should purchase property within the district. The kind of property being recommended would be land within NVIDD that's currently being used for agricultural purposes and currently receiving MVIDD irrigation water. It was stated at that time that it'd be even better if the farm purchased either needed or could use more water than was available from MVIDD in its current allocation, so that we could ask for it and be denied and then state truly that there was no surplus or extra water in MVIDD. We found a parcel that met that criteria, parcel 225-26-109, which went before the board and was approved for purchase at its appraised value on April 2nd, 2018. Since that time, in dozens of separate actions, you, the Mojave County Board of Supervisors, your staff, and your hired consultants have consistently opposed any transfer of Colorado River water away from the Colorado River communities. We opposed the 2017 WPI-WAM attempt to sell 2,225 acres of land and transfer 13,939 acre-feet of Colorado River water to CAP for $34 million. We opposed the quartzsite lease of 1,000 acre-feet of Colorado River water in 2017 and 2018. We opposed MVIDD board policy changing, allowing MVIDD to create 10,000 acre-feet of Colorado River ICS that would later be transferred to Central Arizona, and we are opposing a water contract by the town of the town of Queen Creek to purchase and transfer 2,088 acre-feet of Colorado River water out of La Paz. Even though we have not been entirely successful and many issues are still pending, it's my opinion that without standing, our voices would not have been as loud and we would not have garnered the results that we have been able to obtain. Now, the previous owner of parcel 225-26-109 held an entitlement of 30 acre-feet of water from MVIDD, which was transferred to Mojave County on May 1st, 2018. To adequately farm the property and grow a permanent crop, which was alfalfa, the property needed a total of 96.6 acre-feet of water. On May 7th, 2018, the board approved an application for additional water, which at that time MVIDD did not have to give. It should be noted, only farmers can be voting members of MVIDD, and to hold an agricultural water allocation, the land must be in active agricultural production for 3 of the last 5 years. When Mojave County purchased the property, it had an existing lease to be farmed by Wakimoto Farms. On January 7, 2019, the board approved entering into a lease agreement with Wakamoto Farms for an additional one-year term commencing February 1st, 2019 and carrying through to January 31st, 2020. On March 18, 2019, MVIDD amended their existing water contract with Mojave County to increase Mojave County's water entitlement by 66.6 acre-feet to the full 96.6 acre-feet needed to grow the permanent crop of alfalfa. And just recently, on September 3rd, 2019, I received a letter informing the county that Wakamoto Farms will be ceasing farming the property on December 31st, 2019. What this, in essence, does to maintain Mojave County's property as agricultural status, agricultural water allocation, and to continue to be voting members of MVIDD, the county has 2 years from January 1st, 2020 to resume farming the property. Because we still own the property in the district, the county should retain status for any actions, and in fact, standing may be improved due to MVIDD's proposed fallowing program, reducing the amount of total acres available to Wakamoto Farms to farm, causing them to make a decision to cease farming in the valley, and Wakamoto Farms terminating not only our lease, but the other leases in the consortium and damaging the county. But that's a question for the lawyers to answer. The other question that Supervisor Johnson had was regarding the status of MVIDD's fallowing program. And I've asked our consultant, Patrick Cunningham, to come here today. He has recent information regarding that status and can tell us a little bit more about MVIDD's fallowing program.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Madam Chairman, members, pleased to be here. Always happy to talk about water. I thought I would cover just quickly 3 things. Overview of the MVIDD fallowing program, then the steps to obtain approval of that, and give you the precise status as of today. And of course, answer all the questions in the world. So the fallowing program. They're proposing a fallowing program in which they will create intentionally created surplus. Intentionally created surplus is an idea that the 7 basin states came up with in 2007 to get more water into Lake Mead so that we can protect the river system in the face of our 19-year drought. So this consultation process to create ICS involves all 7 basin states and everybody who's got a contract. So this consultation process involves everybody from CAP, MVIDD, to all the 7 basin states. And the beauty of creating intentionally created surplus is that by conservation or by fallowing, you put water in the lake to strengthen the lake, and you later can order that water for delivery. And in the face of this drought, that water may be very valuable in future years. So the ICS ordering is where the county has had an issue with MVIDD because they changed their policy in the summer of 2018 to allow transfer of water out of their district to central Arizona for the first time. And ICS, through a very narrow 1 sentence in the 2007 guidelines that were approved by the Secretary of Interior, you can transfer ICS from one contractor to another, which means MVIDD could in the future transfer ICS to the Central Arizona Project, and the water could be ordered for delivery in Central Arizona and leave Mojave County. That has been the bone of contention that this board has had with MVIDD. Not necessarily the creation of water in Lake Mead. You've issued 2 letters saying that's a great idea. That strengthens Mojave County for 3 distinct reasons. Number 1, tourism and recreation on Lake Mead obviously needs lots of water. Number two, power generation is crucial, and the lake literally has to be held at a high level so that we can continue power generation. And third, economic development and economic vitality for Mojave County relies on its full allocation of Colorado River water made in the late 60s to the river communities by something called the Water Commission of Arizona, which is now DWR. So that's why ICS, intentionally created surplus, is so crucial to the fallowing program and to the public policy that you as a board make all the time. It's measured in acre feet, and it's stored in the lake for future use. MVIDD has a plan on the table in which they hope to fallow 1,245 acres of land. And that would generate as much as 6,837 acre-feet of water in 2020 to be stored in Lake Mead. And of course, it could continue annually after that. And there may be more or less farmers that choose to fallow their land and store their water. You may make that choice too with your 15-acre farm. So now, what are the 3 steps to actually get this plan approved? Well, they are, you need an exhibit. And it's called an exhibit because it's an exhibit to the forbearance agreement of all 7 basin states. And the reason you need an exhibit is all 7 basin states have a right to that Colorado River water. And each of us have an ability to order that water. So if you're going to store water somewhere, everybody else must agree not to order that water. This is why the consultation process that the Bureau of Reclamation handles on all of these is so crucial, because everybody who's got a stake in the river has to be involved. So you got to have an exhibit. 2, you got to have a quantification method. You got to have a way to say, we used to use this amount of water, now we're going to use 6,000 acre-feet less water, and we're going to store that in Lake Mead. Everybody on the river wants to see your quantification method so they know that it's true wet water. Number 3, you need something called a plan of creation. The plan of creation lays all this out, makes it all very clear. We usually do all 3 of those at the same time, and all the states get to look at them, but because of the drought contingency plan, we've speeded this up. And how did we do that? Well, MVIDD already has their exhibit approved. They submitted their exhibit last January. It went through the DCP process, which you guys remember was very expedited and got a lot of attention. Arizona enacted its DCP on January 31. The governor signed it. And very quickly, by the month of May, the United States Congress had passed it. And you know how quickly the United States Congress usually moves. So that was a very big deal. And this exhibit has been approved. So now MVIDD is very confident they can get the next 2 things approved. Their quantification method, they're putting in meters, they're using expert testimony, they're using weather reports, they are bringing all the modern tools to bear to be able to prove quantification. And they're very confident they're going to be able to do it. And then number 3, the plan of creation has to be approved. Those 2 things are under consultation right now. There are documents that are on the webpage at MVIDD that have already been submitted to the Bureau of Reclamation. The consultation process with all the other states and entities, including the Department of Water Resources, is ongoing. And MVIDD expect that's going to be approved this fall so they can start creating ICS, fallowing land and creating ICS on January 1, 2020. That postpones the issue of transfer. It will authorize the transfer under the policies of MVIDD, but the law requires that, let's say we create a bunch of ICS and they choose later to try to transfer it to Central Arizona or anywhere else off the river. At that point, it goes through a consultation process with the Department of Water Resources, and this board could then interpose its objections to that water leaving the river. So what we're doing now is we're watching MVIDD as they try to get their program up and running. It does adversely affect our farm a little bit because they're fallowing these 1,000 acres. And by doing that, it makes it difficult for farmers to find adequate land to farm. But it also does something very good. It strengthens Lake Mead. So all of these public policies are at risk, and that's my quick summary of the fallow wing program. And Supervisor Johnson, I appreciate you putting it on the agenda. It's a really important issue.
And just to add, Madam Chairman, I have asked procurement to start the process on looking for a leaseor for our property to farm the property. Like I mentioned previously, we have 2 years. The property could stay fallow for 2 years, or as Patrick mentioned, Mojave County might want to explore entering into the ICS program, which would buy us a little bit more time, where we wouldn't have to farm that property. However, we would have to caveat that so we weren't in the camp to where that ICS, we would be encouraging ICS to be transferred to Central Arizona. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Any questions?
Madam Chairman, I might be able to add a little bit more information to the subject. Mr. Wakamoto, the lessee of the property that was farming it, tried to procure a 3-year water supply from the Mojave MVIDD. And what occurred is that board authorized only 1 year. In order for him to be able to produce the crops that he wanted to produce, which was alfalfa, it requires about a 3-year commitment on water, and he was only offered 1 year. And that's the reason why he withdrew from farming our property any further. So I just want to make sure that everybody knew that information.
Thank you. Supervisor Johnson?
Answered my questions, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a question for Mr. Cunningham? Thank you, Patrick.
Madam Chair and members?
Always interesting. Okay, so that was just a discussion, no action. Any action? No? Okay.
I have something to discuss also on that line.
Okay.
Since we're looking for something to do with that land, and if we don't use the water, we're going to lose the water allotment. I thought we might take a look at a prisoner work farm to grow food for the prison, and maybe if they could grow enough, they maybe for the senior centers also. And Nathan's got a YouTube video of a farm in Florida.
I see the farm continuing to do what it does, which is offset the cost of what it takes to feed the inmates inside the jail every day. I think the farm's got a bright future ahead of it. The guys, the officers that are out here are some of the most dedicated men I work with. I can call on them anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and without question, they'll be there. So, in my opinion, the farm has a very good future ahead of it. Yeah, they come in here 3 or 4 times a day. The main things they do is they check and fill the gravity feeders for the birds. They check the water supply. We have automatic waterers come down here. Obviously, they gather the eggs. The eggs are taken down to the egg wash station where they're cleaned, placed in storage containers, and placed in cold storage in preparation to being transported to the jail. And this is done twice a day. They can push this into the house and take it along with them as they gather eggs. We have our swill pots right here. Basically what this is, we have a permit that we apply for and receive every year. It's called a permit to feed garbage to swine. And what we do is we take the leftover food from inside the jail, we bring it back to the farm, we put it in these pots, and we use a wood-burning fire to bring the swill to a boil. Once it boils for 30 minutes, you give it time to cool, and then we can feed it to our hogs. It helps offset the cost of what it takes to feed the hogs we have here on the farm. That okra right here, we just picked that Monday morning, and we'll probably pick it again tomorrow or Friday, and that'll be sent into the jail. And then our sweet potatoes right here, they're growing right now, obviously, and they won't be ready till around October, but all that'll be harvested and sent into the jail as well. And I've been asked several times about the success rate, if they're able to learn any type of trade while they're at the Marion County inmate work farm. And it's just not something that, when you're out of jail, that you're going to call back up and say, hey, thank you for teaching me, how to operate a tractor, or, allowing me to go to the Campbell Soup or John Deere or something of that nature. However, do we run into them from time to time at a local feed store or a supermarket or something like that, and they come up to us and shake our hands and say, thank you for letting me work at the farm. I really learned something. Sure, we get that from time to time, and that is rewarding in itself.
Have you ever found anything on an inmate when you pat them down when they're leaving the farm? No, maybe a sandwich or two.
Before we start, this was not agendized. Can we be talking about this, or do we need to put it on a future agenda?
No, what we're talking about is update from staff on the MVID filing proposal, the joint farm lease agreement. As long as it's related to this farm lease agreement, what we're doing with Wakimoto Farms, it's permissible. I don't want to go too far with it, but I think we can talk about, hey, we're talking about what are we going to do with this farm. The farm lease agreement, from what we've been told, is going to be terminating. County Manager Hendricks pointed out that we're looking at the process of leasing it out. So yeah, I think this is. I don't want to go too far and spend hours talking about it, but yeah.
Prepared to talk about it.
But we can, in general terms, say, hey, this is something that we may want to consider is use of inmate labor to use this farm. So stick to this farm.
Sure. And these are not uncommon across the country. But my outstanding assistant, Barbara Hitzel, got a hold of one of the guys that runs this work farm in Florida and asked him a couple of questions. And there's just, let me read these real quick. Question, how did the farm get started? Answer, he was not sure, but according to the internet, it's been in operation for 20 years and it was started to save money on food costs. Question, how many inmates participate? Answer, 20 to 25 at any given time. Question, what is the criteria for choosing who gets to work on it? Low-level offenders? Question, those with a little time left in their sentence? Question, answer, low-level misdemeanors that are non-drug related. Question, who manages the farm? Sergeant Joyner manages it. Question, who supervises the inmate on the farm? Did they hire additional guard staff to supervise the farming activities? There's also a lieutenant who oversees the farm and the kitchen operations. There's also a civilian job that instructs the inmates in poultry class and is paid from inmate welfare fund. I asked if this was funded by a government grant, and he said it was not. Inmates can be certified in raising chickens, pig, cattle. They do not use the pork for the inmate menus, which is interesting. And he assumed that the pork was sold to offset the cost of the program. How far from the jail to the farm? It's 17 miles. And what type of security fencing surrounds the farm? There's a 10-foot chain link fence with razor wire around the farm. But we might want to have staff take a preliminary look, just a quick look at something like that and see whether that's feasible or whether anybody's interested in taking a look at it.
Chairman Angus? In the past, under the direction of Sheriff Cook, Mojave County had what was called the Honor Farm. It was also a boot camp facility. It was labor intensive, and I think it went for a few years, but it wasn't very successful, and it was eventually closed down, and that was out at the Kingman Airport Industrial Park. I'm not sure if the county still owns that property or not, but yeah. Might talk to Sheriff Schuster and see if he wants to look into making another honor farm at our Fort Mojave
Madam
property.
Chairman?
Yes.
It's interesting that we bring this item to the agenda today. I just happened to meet a gentleman a couple years ago that ran one of the largest institutions of its kind in Texas. So if you'd like further research, I can introduce you to that person.
Okay, can we just put this on a future agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
If you take no action, which we can do, then no action will be taken.
Right.
We've received an update, received information, but if one of the supervisors wishes to bring something in the future, then you would bring that item on the agenda and we could then properly go forward with it.
Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to move on. 67, discussion and possible action, status update from staff on permits regarding the 1994 Cavco mobile home currently in the Mojave Valley, Fort Mojave Community Park, and clarifications on the possible use for it by the county.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You pulled a permit here recently, and I think your permit is expired now, isn't it?
The permit, Chairman Angus, Supervisor Johnson, the permit was pulled March 13, 2019, and basically, once a permit's pulled, you have 6 months to perform work on that permit and request an inspection. An inspection was requested, and we performed a site visit and inspection on September 6th. Once that inspection's done, that then gives us, basically, it continues that clock so that additional work can be done.
So you were able to sneak it by after that last meeting when I brought it up, it was expiring. The question I have, and this might be for Mr. Esplin more than for you, we have the trailer that we're talking about, was donated to the county, and the county accepted it. Now, you applied for the permit, but you're not doing the work. That work is being done by somebody else, which is not going through our procurement, which is not being covered by our insurance or anything else, as far as I know. And then this trailer is going to be used by somebody else, which we have no contract with to let them use that. It just seems like we have no kind of a duck in a row on this one at all.
Is that
No, that question was for it? What's the
question or a statement?
Yeah, I mean, what's the question?
The question is, I mean, my whole thing is always trying to protect the county. A trailer was given to us. Public Works gets a permit after we said, hey, this is work's being done over there with no permit. They get a permit. They're not doing the work on this. They haven't gone out for somebody to do the work, but the work is being done. Well, it hasn't been done because it's been fenced off for ages now. But the work is being done so that this trailer can be used by another party that we have no contract with, who happens to be the party that gave us the trailer to begin with. I mean, to me, it just seems like there's no...
If you want my opinion, we should treat it just like any other county asset, right? If it's owned by the county and if somebody else is using it, then we need to make sure we have the proper arrangements, that insurance is available, that there's an agreement in place. If we have to lease it, that we go through the leasing procedure, whatever it is. I don't know, but yeah, it should be treated just like any other county asset or county building or county owned property or whatever it is. We should have that. I don't know if it's in place or not, but we should have that.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's just kind of a, do we have any idea what we're doing? We own a trailer. I take it you didn't request all this work to be done on the trailer because you need it for Public Works or for anybody else. So it's not being done for us. It's not being done by us. It's not being supervised by us, but it's still our trailer. And it's going to be, well, we don't know, but in theory, it's going to be leased to these people, but we don't have a lease for yet. It just legally doesn't seem like we're doing it very.
Isn't eventually that park supposed to be given back to everything in that park given back to the county?
It's up to the board. That's up to the board.
Is that why it's kind of in limbo? Because it's kind of this. I mean, what would you like to happen?
Well, if it's going to be I guess my thing, I didn't see why we took the trailer, but once we took the trailer, then it's our trailer to do with as we please. And I don't think the highest and best use is for us to leave it there to have somebody else do something on. I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but we're in the middle of something where I don't see any leadership in this or control over it, because we're going to give it back on a lease to the person that gave us the trailer to begin with. It's
just a storage trailer, right?
But it's still a liability. There's no insurance. We're not the ones that are overseeing the work that's going on there or anything else.
So do you want to have this brought back with a plan? There's just no plan, right?
No, there's not a plan yet.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
We probably should have an agreement with the park owners to park that trailer on their property, and they should have an agreement with us to rent that property.
Yes.
Even if it's $1 a year from us, including insurance, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't disagree with that, because we haven't voted to take over ownership of the park. And
do you have anything?
And if we do in the future, we don't know how that's going to go.
Yeah, that was all. It just seemed like a liability sitting out there.
Okay. Anyone else? So you wanna make a motion or ask to be brought back? What do you want to do?
I'm guessing staff will bring it back now. He got his permit done last time, so.
Be happy to bring it back.
All right.
Just, I guess, as an update for the board, I have spoken with the park committee, and initially they had mentioned that they were wanting to have it as a storage unit, and apparently that was due to some ADA issues. They have expressed interest recently of using it for administration purposes, as well as possibly a referee station or a rest spot for referees too. So just that was some of the information in talking with the park committee. That's been brought up that's a possible intention that they'd like to use for that trailer.
I guess, Madam Chair, that confusing now because we took it as a storage unit. Obviously, it doesn't have the plumbing in it or anything else in it that has to be, if it's going to be used for a rest area or something else. Now we're getting into remodeling a trailer that was given to us with a value of nothing.
And that's a great point. It actually currently it has a restroom and a kitchen in it. However, in order to be able to use it as a commercial purpose, that restroom would need to be remodeled in order to accommodate ADA usage as well. There's also the question of a septic tank and having a permitted septic tank being installed to connect to this.
Madam Chairman, the motion would be to give it to the county admin manager and have him fix all this mess, because the board
Second that.
the board had wanted certain things done in relationship to the park, and the county board of supervisors accepted ownership of that trailer to be placed on the park property that we didn't own. So it's a tough hand that we were dealt, and I agree with Supervisor Johnson that a lot of things need to be corrected. But one of the things, full disclosure, is it was my understanding that there's been a septic tank that's been installed and we can't find a permit on that septic tank. So I discussed that with Tim, and we're going to be issuing a notice to the park committee to disconnect, and either that or properly permit that septic tank through us. Any change in use that they want would absolutely have to come back in front of the board, because you all approved it as a storage trailer, not as a office building or anything else. So that would definitely have to come back in front of the board, and then certainly we'll follow Supervisor Johnson's suggestion and Attorney Esplin's recommendation that this should be treated just like any other county property. It probably should have been done in the past before now, but that means an agreement for the location, because that property isn't under the ownership or control of Mojave County, and agreement for the use, that we would lease it for whatever we can legally lease it for, to be approved by the Board of Supervisors, brought back in front of you all.
Okay. Anything else?
Madam Chair, you got it, because I think the manager explained it pretty well. But part of the problem is it's our trailer, and if we now are permanently affixing it to land that we don't own, I guess hopefully they'll be able to settle that all out when they bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll just move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 68 was brought by me. Discussion, possible action, discuss the possibility of expanding the realm of the Public Lands Recreation Commission to include the Moss Mine expansion. Okay, this is just something, nobody came to me as the Moss Mine expansion was in the news. They're doing an EIS, and several off-roaders approached me saying there was some questions about trails and whether they were going to be cut off and whatnot. And since we are, what are we, a cooperating agency, a coordinating, one of the agencies, we're there. We have a seat at the table. Yeah, we have a seat at the table. being that I believe we were successful with the Public Lands and Recreation Commission with the Kingman Travel Plan, just to have, that it was a narrow focus. The bylaws of that commission just state that it was just for that purpose. So I am asking if this board would be amenable to expanding it just now, just for the Moss Mine expansion. And again, it might not even be necessary, but if something comes up that is concerning to the off-road community in my district, I want to make sure that they have a seat at the table. Right now, they seem to have a good relationship with the Moss Mine, and I think the Moss Mine does a good job. It's just in case we need it. So there would have to be a bylaws change to that. That's all.
Chairman Angus, also just as a side note for the supervisors, when the members were originally appointed, thinking it was, for a short period of time, most of your appointments are going to expire in November and December. So we would also have to go through that process of reappointing them. I think maybe, except Supervisor Gould's might be January, but just as an FYI, we will need to do those as well if this is passed.
Right. It's just a sort of a proactive thing in case. Just wanted to put it out there.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the need for it. I think we put Mr. Walsh in charge of the Moss Mine dealing with BLM. If somebody has I don't think roads are going to come into it at all.
Trails
are going to come into it at all.
Good morning.
So what would be the process, Tim, if someone comes to me, and we got Bob Smith, and he's the chairman of that, if there is an issue that comes up, they know this, without this commission, could I bring it to you? I mean, do we have that, the trail? Is anything that has to do with the Moss Mine expansion as a coordinating agency we can bring up?
Absolutely. Chairman Angus, the MOU for reviewing the Moss Mine environmental review will be at your next meeting. We'll have the MOU ready for the board's review and approval. And definitely as part of that MOU, we do state that it will include roadways and access and that type
into trails.
Yes. So I don't know that we specifically said trails, but we haven't gotten it approved yet, so we could add trails in there. Yeah, we'll actually speak with Amanda Dodson this afternoon, make sure we can have that added to it. But then as part of reviewing those documents, definitely if you have any concerns that come up, we can include that as part of our comments.
So let me ask you something. So if that was the case and we don't go and expand this PLNR, but people come to me, then I come to you. I mean, would they have to go in front of the board, or can I just, as a supervisor, express concerns?
You could express those concerns to me. The department will look at the environmental documents that are presented to us from the standpoint of the board's direction on these trails are important to us. We want to preserve these trails, and in reviewing their documents, we would take that direction and include that in our comments on those documents.
Okay, well, I feel good about that, Bob. Yeah, I think that'll be good. So I will withdraw this item, but thank you.
Thank you.
69, discussion possible action to approve the recommendation of the county manager to appoint Dave Hawkins as the Mojave County Communications Director, the range 25, step 5, or $82,264 annually, with a start date of October 21st, 2019.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Let's take a voice vote.
Supervisor Watson?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
No.
Supervisor Bishop?
Yes.
Supervisor Gould?
No.
Chairman Angus?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
And lastly, item 70, from Ginny, our clerk of the board, discussion possible action, authorize the chairman to sign a letter to Governor Ducey requesting the elimination of mandated county payments to support the state-operated and managed Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections, and full funding of the 2020 presidential preference election as requested by the Arizona County Supervisors Association.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
I have a question.
Aye.
I have a question on this. Where did this come from? Did this come from the Managers Association? The CSA hasn't talked about this.
It says Supervisors Association.
Yeah, well, you might say that from the director, but hasn't been on an agenda.
Chairman Angus, Supervisor Johnson, I believe the initial email was sent out to county managers, staff, and I'm not sure who else was on that, but it was then forwarded to me by Manager Hendricks and put on the agenda for the board to discuss before having the chairman sign it.
Right. I mean, I saw the backup there that went to the county manager, but this didn't go to the, I'll leave it to you folks because you go to those meetings, but I go through the agendas and listen in on the phone calls, and I don't recall this ever being put up to a vote of the...
I wasn't at the last meeting, but Supervisor Watson, I believe, was.
I haven't seen it on an agenda. Have you, Supervisor Watson? Not that we're against any of this, but it was just kind of curious that I didn't like the way it was brought to us by them.
Right. No, it was not on the last agenda at the CSA meeting. I believe they're just trying to use this as a clarification for the meeting that we're going to have at the end of October. The
legislative.
So this will be on the
legislative
next.
summit.
This will be on the next agenda.
We could certainly put this on the next agenda, but it's for the summit at the end of October.
Well, no, as I understand it, they're actually holding off. The deadline was like last week.
Chairman Angus, yeah, the original email that apparently came out from Craig Sullivan at CSA, they wanted a signature by the end of last week. However, I advised him that it needed to go before our board prior to having you sign it.
Could it have been something the executive board decided?
No, I wasn't on the executive board
wasn't on the
either.
executive
No,
board?
it hasn't been on. That's what bothered me was the way it was done. We're having the executive director asking us to do it. Not that we're not opposed to the things they're saying, but I just like to have you guys vote on it before you send it to us.
Right, and it wasn't presented to us at the meeting, at the CSA meeting, the last
But
meeting.
it's not something that we're opposed to. I mean,
Right.
we agree with this.
But we'll find out, we're going to, because they're literally waiting. I think we're the last county, is that it? Something like that?
Chairman Angus, I'm not sure of that. I just advised him of
Okay.
I was putting it before the board prior to having it signed.
Hey, guys, so what's your pleasure?
I think there's a motion and a...
No, there is a motion? Did we have a
We do have a
second?
motion and a second for approval at this point.
Okay, we motion second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye, just for the way it was brought forward.
And so you two, all right, so there's 3-2. Okay. And with that, motion to adjourn?
So moved.